works, you know, they,
Yeah.
yeah,
We're
there we go.
I'm making the official recording of our meeting now. That we have enough people. So and
That's
Nancy
it.
telling us about her background, and then Gail, and then Lee's joining us. And we are uh, getting to know, we're building a community of people who really enjoy 60s music and see what we can learn from it. Okay,
Yeah.
Nancy.
Well, I don't really want to take up any more time because I hope we get into what you sent us. I printed it out, but mostly Leland and I'm just saying all these songs here, there's so many songs that even today when I go play places, I actually get requests for some of this. So I play covers. I've learned to play covers now. I play guitar and piano and also my own music that is on YouTube and things like that. So
And Nancy writes really, really good songs, I've heard.
thank you, David.
Um,
And
Gail, can you give us a thumbnail of what you told us yesterday so Lee can
Oh, okay.
handle?
I can talk a little better today.
Yes.
Um,
oh yeah.
um, Mama said that I was writing songs when I was standing up in my crib. She said you'd la la to yourself, and if you liked what you heard, you'd sing it again. If you didn't like what you just sang, you'd shake your head, and I'd never hear the same pattern. So I grew up in a household where my mother was, sang choral music. I started in church choirs at the age of 4, which meant my sister and my mom taught me how to read when I was 3 because you had to be able to read to be in the choir. And when I was like 11, I started playing the cello, played a bunch of other instruments, flute, clarinet, guitar, piano, whatever. And I'm a passable player on all of them and a master of none. Um, um, I discovered that the best instrument I had was my voice, and I kind of owe that to Mama because she won the New York State Championship for voice 2 years in a row. Offered a scholarship to Juilliard and didn't take it,
I was up
but
this morning and saw it dusting on my truck and went,
I'm
"Well, here we
sorry.
go."
sang forever. And my first professional job was as a cellist, and then I started getting jobs as a singer and did musical theater, opera, rock and roll, big band. Ended up doing also music supervision for film and TV, and just have continued writing. Have my own CD out, and have written for produced musicals, and sang backup for Dick Dale for several years in the 80s. And I pretty much sang backup for everybody and their dog, people you've never heard of and were great, people you've never heard of who sucked, people who you know who sucked, and people who you know who were great. So it's like, we could all, do a bunch of name dropping, but it's just you move up the ranks, you do what you do, and you hopefully love what you're doing in the process. I was fortunate enough to have a songwriting mentor, Darnielle Pershing, who was Johnny Mathis and Fifth Dimension's musical director and arranger. And so learned a lot of my craft from him, and just went on to write hundreds of songs. Some not produced, some suck, some great, some that have gotten licensed for film and TV. And, that's kind of it. We're all here because we love music. I mean, I grew up in the 60s, being a 1950s baby. But I really didn't listen to anything rock and roll until I was just going off to college. And my basis was choral music and classical music, folk music, and such. It was not a musical theater. It was not rock. But the first time I heard Aretha, and I went, or R&B, I was not aware of either. But I heard Aretha, and I kind of went, oh, I think I kind of like this. And And then when I started singing with Dick Dale, because I didn't know any of these songs, I was listening to the radio for the old oldies station, and so I have this really weird, sporadic knowledge of the music of the time because that was also the time when I really started listening to the Beatles old catalog. So it's been a weird, varied career.
And do you have another? Last time you said you liked Eleanor Rigby, and I think you had a. Well, what are some other '60s songs that really stand out as your favorite from the era?
Wow. I'd have to really think about that because, as I said, there's a lot of gaps in my in my listening. But I'd have to say that from the list that you gave us, if I could bring this back up, here it is.
Yeah, Lee.
All of the folk music of the time. I listened to Peter, Paul, and Mary, Pete Seeger, and Woody and Arlo Guthrie, but he was a little bit later. Joni Mitchell, I was a major fan, sang a lot of her music in clubs. Um, uh, then when it got into the 70s, I liked a lot of the Simon and Garfunkel, Funkle. But I have to say that Sitting by the Dock of the Bay is one of my favorites of the era. Um, I really love Smokey Robinson and Otis Redding, but definitely Otis Redding, I think, is probably um, one of the ones that really struck me a lot. And and who can't love Heard It Through the Grapevine? I mean, what a great production on that.
Was only hit 3 different times.
Exactly. I mean, it's a beautifully structured song and that tells a story that holds your attention. And oh boy, the gardeners are here. I think I'll put myself on mute now.
um, Lee, can you tell us a little about your background so they know, and also what you like about '60s music or something that stands out from the '60s for you?
Oh, okay. Well, I've been studying with Kat for a long time. I started his classes so many years ago in at UCLA, called How to Write a Hit Song. And then I just ended up studying with him by myself, and he's been my songwriting mentor for a long, long time. And I love '60s music. I think that that's my main influence as a songwriter. I mean, I think the Beatles are my main influence. They're kind of the first group that I listened to when I was young, like 6 years old. I loved how they appealed to somebody who was 6 years old. Their later albums, the White Album and Sgt. Pepper's. I found magical production and songwriting that could appeal to a very small child and an adult. So I found like that was where the magic was, and it just sort of I absorbed that magic that they brought together on those later albums. And I'm not sure what else, but I love so many '60s groups. I love different, more. I mean, I like more. I love the Velvet Underground, who is just maybe they don't have really complex songwriting, but it's really good. And I like the Beatles, who do some more complex things. I love Lee Hazelwood. I like that's sort of I'm in the world of the 1960s. I always have been, even when I was in high school. My friends and I dressed like we were in the '60s. That was in the '80s. So yeah, we were in the underground '60s clubs, and I've always been a worshiper of everything from the '60s. And especially the songwriting. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we're going to be. You brought up. There's so many different acts from the '60s that still their music still talks to us today. So what is it? 60 years later. That's amazing. We something we write should last that long, you know. Anyway, yeah, at least released some CDs of her music, so she's very, very active with her music and producing and singing. So let's take a look at some stuff from the 60s now. Nancy and Gail, last week we played the initial, uh, what I consider the Ed Sullivan Show that changed pop music forever in the 60s when the Beatles sang, I Want to Hold Your Hand. And we followed it with a more social commentary, Eleanor Rigby. And they seemed like really different songs, yet they had a similarity. Oh, just a second. Someone else wants to come in. All right. Leslie,
Morning, afternoon.
welcome. I'm glad you could make it. We're Leslie is a fan of music. I know her as a friend, uh, and I don't think you have a I know Leslie doesn't have a music background, but she really likes good music. Just quickly, just why don't you, for us, name one of your favorite songs or artists from the 60s?
My name is Leslie. My favorite group in the 60s is probably gosh, The Doors.
Absolutely. We're going to be listening to the Doors.
Okay, good.
In fact, uh, I, as I have been, I started this whole thing of wanting to go to the 60s because I haven't found a lot of today's music having the values that I really liked, in the sense of uh, back in the 60s, people studied songcraft and song contrasts. They would go from one section to another and back and go to a third section. And they would sequence the song so that it kept your interest all the way to the end. Whereas a lot of today's songs are more looped and they're sort of like ambient and they're interesting, but they kind of run out of gas for me. Uh, where the stuff of the 60s didn't. And even the Doors were not known as excellent songwriters, and yet if you listen to their songs, they're structured so that they pay off. Their hooks are there, all the different ingredients of hit songs, and they had a lot of hit songs. So yeah, we'll be listening to stuff from the Doors.
And they were shorter too.
Yes,
Because,
absolutely.
and so they were able to fit all of that structure and be succinct with their words because they had to get the message across in what is it, 2 minutes, 52 seconds?
Yeah, you had 3 minutes. And yeah, I remember when I started out that you didn't have songs that went over 3 minutes. That's all you had. So you had to make the most of your time in your structure. And now they just weave things and ramble. I mean, a lot of it's. I'm not saying there are some very worthy efforts out there, but the priorities have changed. So I agree with you, Gail, for sure. Um, so what we're going to do, oh yeah, so I wanted to know, we were asking what what about Eleanor Rigby and I Want to Hold Your Hand, what did they have in common that would keep you listening to the song all the way to the end?
They took everyday things and made them interesting, is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's a boy who wants to hold the hand of the girl. Then we have love lost and people wondering about what their lives mean in Eleanor Rigby and some of the pain that goes along with living and not getting what it is that you wanted in life. And so people can relate. They're very relatable songs. They're They're not trying to be some esoteric, this is the meaning of life. It's just here are the situations, and they make you feel for the people in the situations. They're structured well. They wrap things up, but still, in Eleanor Rigby, it makes you want more for the people who have, like Eleanor and the preacher and such. In with I Want to Hold Your Hand, there's the hope for the future. So you have two ends of the spectrum. You have, the young person going out in life, and the older people going away from it.
Well, there was a universality of emotion.
Exactly.
I agree with that. And Nancy, what did you hear? What did you get from looking at those two songs? Unmute, please.
From Eleanor Rigby, and the other one was which?
Uh, Hold Your Hand.
Honestly, I'm thinking that when I first heard them, I was quite young. I didn't connect the dots. And when I hear them now, I'm just a big fan of the Beatles, and I didn't really analyze what it was. I just knew that I loved it and any song that they did. And there's so many hooks to their in their music that keeps me listening. And I just think they were very talented. So I mean, I just loved everything that they did, and they did different a variety. It was a wide variety of writing, and I mean, if you listen to the Rolling Stones back then, and then all of a sudden you listen to Eleanor Rigby, it's like they're almost like what they're but yet they call them rock and roll, and Eleanor Rigby is not rock and roll. So or and so that was kind of interesting. They had such variety, and that's what I noted about them.
Well, I agree with you. There's a lot of variety. What I find that's in common, because again, like you, I just listened to, I didn't analyze it when they came out. I just enjoyed what I was listening.
Mhm.
But as I've gone over it, I find that they had a great sense of song structure. And you're talking about the Rolling Stones, and we're going to look at I Can't Get No Satisfaction at a later date.
Okay.
Same thing. You have a title that has a universal emotion attached to it.
Yes.
And it's sequenced in a way there are several song sections. It's not just one thing looped over and over. And and I know because I've read some of the biographies, these people had studied songs. They
Mhm.
wanted to know, again, when I had that class that Lee took about how to write a hit song. It's like, yes, you can have something and just sequence it over and over and over, and it runs out of gas. But if you do it on a certain level, then you go to another section at another level, and then you go to the first and the second, then you do a third section. It's like, uh, and then you wrap it up at the end. And at the end, you've heard so much and you go, God, I want to hear it again. Whether if you have the same thing and it's kind of monotonous, the melody doesn't travel up or down, the story stays in the same place, it doesn't progress, then you don't have a reason to want to hear it again. You may like the way it sounds, and of course today with all the visuals and the videos and all that, you may like the movie that came with it, but the song, for it to live for 60 years, has to have both that universality that Gail's been talking about and the structure. So I did.
One of the things that Walt Disney said, that he made a lot of changes and decisions based on whether or not a scene was going to move the story forward. There was a beautiful sequence in Snow White that never made it because it was all the animals and the dwarfs building her bed for her. And it was a gorgeous scene that they had storyboarded, but it never went into the film because Walt said, two things that have to happen. It has to the movie has to have heart. You have to feel for the main character immediately. And number two, it has to move everything forward. And I think that the same thing can apply to a song. And I have to tell you, I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
I was a rabid reader of your Music Connection articles for all the years that you were writing for them. I learned a lot of stuff because this was a whole new world of music for me. And reading those columns that you did and talking about songs and structure and your opinions on things, they were an invaluable tool over the years.
Well, I appreciate that. I knew Michael Dolan. I was a friend of his, the guy who ran Music Connection, and he wanted me to write a column. I remember I did a Prince song, one of his first hits, and he said, "I want you to write what made that song a hit." And that's part of what we're going over in this workshop is to say, what did they do that gave it that longevity, gave it to and I think I gave you two things that I learned from John Berhaney. Number one, you got to grab the audience, which is just what Gail was saying. You have to have something you relate to. And then you got to keep the audience. And that is the art of the storyteller. And it's the art of the music composer or music writer that knows how to structure the song so it has levels to it. And those of you who got Leslie and Lee, I will send you some handouts that I'm mailing out. From time to time, I'm going to mail stuff out to anyone who comes to the workshop. And there are two, I'm going to give you a little lesson in songcraft, and then we'll listen to the Beatles. Okay. There are two friends for a songwriter, and then there's one nemesis for a songwriter. The friends are which I'm going to say three things. Which are the friends and which is the nemesis? Repetition, variation, and contrast. What are the friends? Repetition, variation, and contrast.
Repetition and contrast.
Yeah, please unmute you guys. Yeah, repetition, variation, and contrast. You think all three of them are good, but two of them are much better than the other.
Oh, repetition and contrast.
And which is the one that is not a friend to a songwriter?
Well, the way that you seem to see it, I think it's variation.
Yes. Well, the reason is, think about it this way. Repetition is how you learn the song. And if you have hooks and if you have the hook and it comes up once and you don't hear it again, you're not going to remember it. You have too much repetition, it's going to get monotonous. So you need to go somewhere else. That's contrast. Now, if you say something and then you say something slightly different, a variation, that's not going to be as retainable. I always feel that variation of the various elements belongs at the very end of the song. That's where you can riff around. That's where you can make little changes. But if your chorus is not much different than your verse, by the time you get to the second verse, the song's going to sort of lose its audience. So anyway, that's something to think about. All the songs we're going to be looking at today. And in this workshop, and I've sent you a list of a good 50 hit songs from the 60s, and every single one of them is structured in a way that keeps you involved all the way to the end. I think I mentioned that I used to go to Preview House and look at uh, TV pilots and movies coming out, and you had a knob, and then it says, this is holding my interest. I'm very interested. Go to the right. I'm losing interest. Go to the left. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to see, does it keep my audience involved? And that's what you begin to look at when you analyze songs, when you listen to your own songs. When I give critiques to other people, when I critique my own songs, I'm saying, is my audience here, or are they beginning to think about lunch instead of the song?
And
Uh,
also, you have to take a look at the fact that, you know, some of these classic artists, when you're looking at the Beatles, think about the reverence that a man like conductor Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops had for the Beatles. Think of when Leonard Bernstein in one of his shows had Janice Ian on singing Society's Child, and he's analyzing the song and the production about having the harpsichord at the beginning and marveling at a 15-year-old who put something out like that, and have him analyzing the song and just gazing at her in absolute awe. So when you have that kind of talent, and you have on both ends of it the child, really 15 years old, and the famous conductor saying your music has value, that's when you know that you've done something really right.
well, you're talking about classical. I have heard people describe Paul McCartney as the Mozart of the 20th century, because he was such an incredible melody writer. In fact, that's the very first thing we're going to do right now. I'm going to take you to one of the class. We're going to still be doing some of the early or middle Beatles songs, and we'll progress to the later ones, and then we'll go to some, and future workshops we'll go to the other 60s artists. So let me try this here. I'm going to take us to one of the uh, greatest songs of all time from the Beatles catalog. It must have been recorded by tens, if not hundreds, of artists.
If it's the one you're thinking of, it is actually the most recorded song in Billboard's history,
It could,
and in more languages.
and well, here it is. Let's see, we're on the same plane here. Okay, that'll give you the essence of the song. Okay,
Incredible.
all right. This time I got it back to the so we can see all of us now. What is that the song you were thinking of, Gail?
Absolutely.
Me too.
One word hook.
Why was it so popular?
First of all, it's a beautiful melody. And as Paul often did on the songs, you had lovely string quartet, so that brings warmth into what would be a pop song. But it had a recognizable hook that was only one word. And yet it started and ended with that same word, and had a lovely bridge that took you further into his pain, but then brought it back to the hope of still believing in yesterday. I mean, it was like this perfect structure from beginning to end.
I would definitely agree with that. Any other reasons? Because I can tell you some more. One thing I learned from John Berhaney, and one of the most important things in as a lyricist, is the concept. And if I have a concept, I want the title, if at all possible, to sum up the concept. Well, what one word really sums up the whole song? I mean, yesterday says it. It's a nostalgic song for what had happened, and it's also one of the best marketing tools there is to have a title, and if you can make it in 1 or 2 words, so much the better. But so the customer knows, oh, they hear it once. Yes, I like that song. I want to hear it yesterday again. So you have a hook there, and when I write a lyric, I try to start with a concept, with an idea, and then the idea will tell me, well, there's 2 ways to develop a lyric that I have learned. One, either you do a bunch of imagery, like birds do it, bees do it, even educated fleas do it. Let's fall in love. That is a laundry list. 50 ways to leave your lover. There's a bunch of songs that are just lists. And that holds your attention because you want to add to the list and add to the list. The other is a story, a beginning, middle, and an end, and it progresses. And the Beatles did both of those things. They were very good storytellers. Any other comments about that? Okay, well, let's take a look at. I have several Beatles songs for us to look at, and let's see if those the structure of going from one section to another, like Gail said, it went to the bridge. It went somewhere completely different, and then it took you back. Now, one of the big mistakes a lot of songwriters do, they'll do a verse, they'll do a chorus, and they'll go to a bridge, and then they'll go to a fourth section. Well, how far do you think you can take an audience before they need that repetition to know where they are? It's you need to learn how far to travel, when to come back, when to travel some more, and that just comes with study, and it comes with analysis. It comes with being aware of what you're doing. Okay, let's see. And purposely picking a completely different kind of song. This song, I like it because it's this was something that really made the Beatles stand out in terms of society. They wrote this song was both was a reflection to society and caused changes in society. So let's see what you have to say about that.
Well, we have a lot of repetition there.
Yeah.
And it's fabulous. Yeah.
How many hooks were there?
Whew. I can't tell you that. I just know they're there because I used the last time we were together, there that term earworms, earworms. And I mean, it holds my attention completely. There's so many different things going on. Even the drums. And I play drums because he just the way he does different things, and he does it again, but it's they're just great. They're just great for all the structure or I mean everything you possibly need for a song to hold your attention. They have it. They just have it. The Beatles.
And I purposely picked it because she had a very conventional song yesterday.
Yeah.
It's quite unconventional. This is much more artistic. Yet it's artistic in a way that we, the audience, can hold on to, and it keeps our attention. And it's so intriguing, we want to hear it again. And of course, with many of us Beatle fans, we want to hear it again and again and again, and everything else they had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you're waiting after the first verse, you're waiting again to hear "Let Me Take You Down."
Yes,
And you are also waiting for "Strawberry Fields Forever." So everything that happens in between is that sandwich. And then all of a sudden it goes off into the ozone that is nowhere near what that sandwich is. And yet you want to come back to that too at some point, and it merely makes you think, because it's the lyrically it's gone into this kind of ethereal, not quite sure what reality is kind of feeling, and yet it then anchors you back again. Let me take you down, strawberry fields forever.
uh, definitely. Uh, and I was listening. I'm going to go. How far are they going to take me before they bring me back? And those of you who have studied with me, I always say the audience wants to hear that again. You can only go so far before you can come back. If you don't go far enough, then my favorite analogy would be when I was teaching songwriting classes. If you pile people in a car and you say, we're going on vacation, and you go around the corner and then you come back and we say, we're home, and then we're home. We didn't go very far. You don't feel glad to be home again because that song didn't travel too much. Or you were going to go for, a picnic in the country and you drove 500 miles. Well, when you came home, you were exhausted. You didn't get the joy of leaving and the joy of coming back. And a song you have to know how far to travel, when to return. And that is just something you learn as you practice songcraft. And they were consummate song constructors, and every song on that list I gave you. Though I never thought that Jimi Hendrix was a brilliant songwriter. When we listen to his songs, you're going to hear the very same thing. They just either studied or just had that God gift of a talent to know how far to take a song, when to come back, when to travel some more. Any other comments, or should I go on to, because I have several Beatles songs here.
Yeah, next one's good. But I loved Gail's analysis. It was great.
Yeah. Well, Gail, if you haven't taught a songwriting class, you certainly could.
Yep.
Well, just another thing on my plate. No.
Actually, Nancy, you could teach one too. Uh, well, those of us have been very committed to songwriting. We to learn. It is like Nancy. I agree. Every day I have things to learn.
Yeah, every day. But you always are talking about John Brahaney, and I will tell you that I have his book. I have his book, and I considered it my songwriting Bible. I literally did. I had that book sitting on my bed. I'd get in bed at night. Sometimes I couldn't go. I always had to read something in that book, and I was so gravitated to it. I think it went to the third edition, and then that was it. But the thing is, it doesn't I'll call it formula. It doesn't change the songwriting formula. It doesn't. You have to have those things in order to have a hit, or even if it isn't a hit, but something you're going to go back to just to listen to. But all the um, every bit of the elements of songwriting, and I agree, Gail definitely could teach a songwriting class, but John Brahaney would be my guru, and you are the guru for Leland, and uh, but it's funny because you really like John Brahaney. I guess you knew him at
Oh,
some point and studied or under him, or I don't know.
with him, I was at the songwriter showcase. We did a lot of things.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, that was. I wish I would have attended that.
I also love the element of collaboration, because we are all bound by certain limitations and such. I know that I write a different kind of song if I'm sitting down and playing the guitar versus sitting down and playing the piano. I also know that I write better melodies when I'm not bound by my hands and I am playing no instrument. So it's like I understand what my strengths and limitations are, and such, and I like to work with other people who have different gifts and such, and those collaborations can take many forms. Sometimes someone will send me a groove and a chord progression, and then I will just write a melody and lyrics to it. Other times I'll write lyrics and the hint of a melody and go to someone else and saying, I'm not liking my bridge, what can what do you think about it? And then it's like I understand the reason why Lennon and McCartney always shared credit equally and such, because when you're in a collaboration, you don't necessarily know where one person started and the other ended up, because the ideas are being flung out so quickly, and you're both agreeing or disagreeing about what goes where. And then when the final thing is done, you're going, "Oh, that was great! Look what we did." And the ego is taken out of it. It's and such, because one person's contribution can make a difference. Because when you're looking at a song like the Beatles, it's got to be you got to admit it's getting better. It's getting better all the time, and then you hear it can't get no worse. That was Lennon's only contribution to that song. But what is it that you always sing along with? It can't get no worse.
No worse, right?
And so the when you have that kind of symbiotic relationship when you are writing together, it can be really, really fulfilling. And you're not always going to find what makes magic. I've written with some people that it is a bear, and it is a trial of patience and determination to churn out the good result. And then there are other people that you write with that it is effortless. And I think that's what helped make Lennon McCartney so wonderful. Their personalities were just at opposite ends of the spectrum. And yet, when they came together to write, there was this magic that happened, regardless of who started it, who finished it, and what went on in between.
Well, I'm going to agree with both of you, Gail. I certainly I was always more advanced with my music and less with my lyrics, but I wrote with some very good lyricists, and boy, did I learn how to write lyrics by writing with someone who's more advanced than me. And of course, I told you I started off with Bo Diddley. I had nothing to do with the words there at all. It was all music that I did there. But then eventually, I remember even when I took some of my songs to Nashville to try to sound, they liked my lyrics better than my music. And of course, they're really, because I wasn't really country enough for them. It was my problem with my music, but they like my lyrics, which is a great testament, because Nashville country music is really lyric oriented. They have great lyricists. And getting back to what you said, and I agree. When you take these songcraft guidelines, it doesn't matter what style of music you're doing. It could be very, it could be teeny bop. It could be sweet pop music. It could be cutting edge. It could be anything in between, and it could be rock. It could be rap. Some of the best rap songs. There's a song by it was from 8 Mile. Who was the rapper? The white rapper from Detroit.
Oh, Eminem.
Yeah, right. And he had one of his best hits. It was a rap tune with a chorus that had all the hooks, and it was structured in a way that it was very relatable and very memorable for the audience. And so these principles of songcraft apply to everything. The songcraft is independent. It's just a matter of, it's human nature. If you do too much of something, the human being goes like this. If you give them just enough, the human being goes here. I try to get people to lean into the song, not lean out of the song. We'll do one more Beatles song and then we'll call it a day, okay? And let's see if the same guidelines apply here. And this is, again, another Paul McCartney, beautiful melody. There's another dimension here that we can look at and listen to the chords, listen to the harmony. Is there something about the harmony that's interesting as well?
Wow.
Give that a little bit of attention.
Oh, just it's singable, it's memorable. Um, you know, you, they take you back out of it with that bridge. The bridge is a hook. Um, and then once you have that, they take you back. They give it, it's almost like they tease you. They give it back to you and you start singing, you know, it's repetition that you talked about. And because they sing wonderfully, so it's like that is like pleasant to listen to them sing. And I guess it's again songcraft structure. What else do they have there?
Your
A
first
story,
and
right?
and your first hook is instrumental.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Eat it. I remember when I was working with Cheryl Lynn, they paired me up with a lyricist, Thurleen Johnson. And she and I wrote another song that Cheryl Lynn did on a later album called This Time. And Thurleen always wanted me to listen to the beginning of a recording, listen for the instrumental hook before the song started. And she said, "When you have that instrumental hook, are you going to hear it again? Of course you're going to hear it again. That's part of the selling thing. It's also back to the old dance music from the 40s and the 50s, or dance music anytime. What do you usually hear before the song starts? There is a little musical hook, and people say, oh, I like that song, and they get up and dance. It's just it's a selling point to a song, and it's just functional in terms of human nature.
It was the basis of a show called Name That Tune. I can name that tune in 2 notes, you know? I mean, the very beginning of your song with the instruments is something that sets the entire tone. I mean, when we think of Bo Diddley, what do we think of? Uh-huh. Exactly.
Okay, so this is food for thought. All right, I'm glad that you guys came. I think we'll call it for today. I'll send you another handout, and I'll add Leslie and Lee to the list. And next week we'll do a little more, the more artistic and the later Beatles, and then we'll go on to the Stones, and then we'll come to the United States and we'll do some American rock. Any comments or requests?
I have a question. Is the book that I bought one of your books, and the cover, I think is blue. So my things are in storage since we had moved, but it's blue, and it's got a black binding on it. I'm pretty sure of it, but I just wondered if that's the book that you're referring to in your handout, Writing and Marketing Songs. I know you've written more than one book, but
Essentially, I have an update. The one that's out there is a little. It was. I also learned that from Berhaney because had me help him. I wrote 2 chapters for his songwriting book. And he had at a certain point, the publisher wanted him to update with some new examples and stuff.
Okay.
So my current one that's out there is an update over the earlier one. It's the same book, but it's got more information and more to that point current. It was 2007 at first, and then 2015 the second one. I haven't updated since then.
Yeah, technology changes so fast, you just end up having to, keep on doing new editions because things change.